This is Bree, Dail for Power and Patriots, here with an exclusive with Edward Pentin. Edward Pentin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we've been discussing throughout this conference many of the different controversies that are coming from the World Meeting of Families. And you've written quite extensively, and many of our viewers have seen me retweet you on Twitter quite a bit because you are an expert on what's going on in the Vatican. There are times when you do a scoop. And it seems that very quickly your story is overshadowed by other stories that come out at the same time from the press office. One of those things, one of those topics that our viewership is very interested in are kind of following the money to the connections in the scandals in the church. And so I'm going to ask you some questions regarding some of those in detail. So, when it comes to the McCarrick scandal, we've heard prior to McCarrick scandals coming out of the Vatican from Archbishop Paglia to Cardinal Coco-Pomerio. And I've discussed this on Power and Patriots. Do you think that this time around something's going to be done because the worldwide media has attention now in the United States?
Well, it's an interesting phenomenon that these scandals, as we heard earlier today, that people knew about them for a long time, and it's only when it hits the media that the bishops want to take action. So it's sad in a way that it has to reach the media for the church to actually take action, but that's what we're seeing. So I think we're going to see more, certainly after the former Cardinal McCarrick scandal, that we're going to see a lot of steps taken to try to root out this kind of thing from ever happening again. And we saw it after 2002 when we had all the big abuse crisis in the US, but I think we're going to see a repeat of that probably in a bigger way now.
A lot of the bishops in the USCCB have been talking about forming a kind of internal audit. And we've also heard from the World Meeting of Families this week, individuals who have been really mouthpieces for the Vatican who are also very much in pro-homosexual mentality. Why is it that, on one hand, we've got the McCarrick scandal, where we have discussed on Power and Patriots, 81% of this is clearly homosexual. This is from the John Jay report. So why is it that we've got that on one hand, and yet the Vatican is seeming to prop up these individuals? I believe it's Cardinal Madriga, who is a keynote speaker for a World Meeting of Families.
Yes.
Yeah. So why is it that there seems to be kind of a double-handedness going on?
Well, I think it's clear. I think beyond any doubt that at the highest levels of the church today, in the Vatican and in episcopates, we've got bishops who want to see homosexual practice accepted into the church. That's quite clear. I mean, we've seen it. It's documented. It's evident. And I think you've got. I think this is why you've got these powerful prelates in place who, despite allowing this sort of thing to carry on, they stay there because there is a network that goes right up to the top, and you can't deny it.
Following that, though, thinking, it's a little bit of a change of course, but considering what you've written about the Vatican Bank, many of our viewers, and I should let you know, I'm not sure if I let you know this, but many of our viewers are not Catholic.
Right.
But they all understand how it works when it comes to individuals like George Soros having his hands on a lot of different social movements and movements to try to contradict Catholic social teaching as well as Catholic moral teaching. You've written extensively on some of the scandals that have come out of the Vatican Bank, which has really gotten no press whatsoever. I want to give you an opportunity now and a platform to speak on those particular subjects. I know it's pretty detailed. And then I want to ask you a follow-up question regarding that and possibly the connection to this kind of circling of the wagons that we're seeing.
Yes. It's hard to put together the financial scandals with the homosexual or sexual scandals that we're seeing. Okay. So I think
Is it because they're so easily covered up, or they've got a trail, or is it just?
Well, it's hard to put the two together. I mean, it's just you can in some cases. I think in Honduras there was a connection there. I think the Bishop Pineda, who resigned last month because of the financial scandals, was also heavily involved in homosexual transgressions. So you've got the same. You've got the connection there, but as far as the Vatican is concerned with its financial corruption, there's always been a certain amount, because ever since Mussolini signed the Lateran Pact for the Church, the Vatican has become its own state, and it's become a kind of playground for corruption. It's allowed this financial corruption to just take off, unmonitored, unaccountable. So it's just got steadily worse in a sense. And that's why you have not the Vatican Bank corrupt so much now. That's being cleaned out, but you've got this other group, this other department in the Vatican called APSA, which is responsible for real estate, and they've been used by ordinary Italians or others, not necessarily prelates or clergy, but lay people, as a sort of instrument, as an offshore instrument to put their money, hide their money away from the taxman, and then just use it as a kind of mechanism.
Is there anybody getting kickbacks for that?
Well, we think. I mean, from what I've found out from the people I've spoken to is that there are real. There's a lot of money involved, and there's concern that Pope Francis is going to clamp down on this, and he's going to sort it out. And in a way, he has in his own time. He's done it slowly, but there are signs now that this is starting. He's starting to make some changes in this area, which is a good thing. But
was this happening under Benedict and John Paul II?
Yeah, Benedict started the cleanup. He did quite a lot. But then Francis hasn't really done much for 5 years. But now he's starting, it seems, by changing personnel at the top in the last few months, that there might be some sort of cleanup going on now. But it's difficult because they obviously have there's a lot at stake for these people. So. Okay,
so let's kind of do some final questions and follow-ups on this. So we've also seen some issues with Catholic press in the Vatican. Some press have access, some don't have access. You yourself have had some troubles, and I want to talk to you about the freedom that you have to be able to write what you write. And do you see yourself as having to walk the line or toe the water, for example, or do you find yourself in a position where you are free to speak of what is going on, or is it becoming more and more difficult? I mean, because we're bringing out, the Pope used fake news as a while back, and then major scandal broke shortly after you actually broke the Vatican Bank story. Lettergate came out, and it seemed to be a quite an interesting situation that took place there. And for our viewers, I've spoken about Lettergate. You guys can go ahead and go to our website and see a little bit more on that, and I'll also link some of Ed's stories so that you can take a look at those as well, and his reports. What do you think is the future for the press in the Vatican and the press that's reporting on the Vatican? Is there?
Well, at the moment, it's. I feel fairly free, actually. I mean, I don't feel restricted. You always have to balance what you report with access.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I found them to be quite okay. I think what they do, though, what I've noticed in the Vatican under Pope Francis, is that they don't necessarily clamp down on you, but they do spin against you, or they try to cover up a story you've done. They try to, as you say... Do
they have a PR team behind them that does that?
No, but there are people very close, journalists very close to Pope Francis who kind of are at his beck and call, to
Yes.
To spin stuff out. Doesn't come from the press office. It comes from, say, Vatican Insider, or I know that Andrea Tornielli is very close to him, and you'll see him spin things out in a kind of either as a damage limitation or whatever. But it's quite interesting to see that work. That's something I've not seen before.
So it's more of like a political
It's
edge
like a political, it is. It's very much like a political thing. And the other thing that I find really quite disturbing is that they have, not so much recently, but they have been is almost demonizing those who criticize, who even report on criticism.
Yes.
And they'll make it personal against the person who's
I've seen that happen with you, as well. So
which
you're
is
just the messenger.
I'm just the messenger, and that's always a revealing sign, though,
yes.
that the things you've either struck a nerve, or that things aren't as well as they seem, and unfortunately, that's been seen quite a lot. But I should say these aren't. If it's not a Catholic audience, that I don't want to paint a completely black view of the Vatican, because although it is going through some quite serious problems. The majority of people working in the Vatican are good people, and they take their faith seriously, and they do really love Christ, love the church, and they're just trying to do what they can. You don't hear from them, and this is the problem a bit with journalism, is that we're always reporting on the
bad news, because it sells.
As Chesterton said, you're reporting on the guys falling from the scaffolding without realizing that there's thousands of people who don't fall off scaffolding, and those are the positive stories.
G.K. Chesterton, brilliant.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking time with us today, and for all of you at home, definitely stay in touch with me, and you can follow Ed Pentin where?
At ncregister.com.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.